welcome to the artist behind the music. Today, our musical guest is Stephanie Ryann. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to have you here and to learn a little bit more about your musical history and the journey you've been on to take you to where you are today. So let's dive way back and tell me a little bit about how you got started in music and kind of the steps that you've taken to get to where you are today.
I'll try to give you the short version.
Yeah, I know. It's always a loaded question, right? Like,
It is
tell
because
me
it's
about your
like,
life. Yeah,
if you're talking to a 15-year-old, I'm sure it's like a lot shorter.
totally.
But for me, my mom was in a band before she had kids. I got I guess my, musical flair from her and my grandmother who also sang. Growing up, I listened to a lot of different types of music. My brother was into like metal and hardcore and that kind of stuff. And I grew up listening to a lot of like Celine Dion and Barbra Streisand, like Shania Twain and Faith Hill, and all those amazing
I feel like
female
little
artists at the
stars are going off
time.
to say the names.
Yeah.
So good.
So I started off there, kind of listened to a lot of different music, and through the years, I sang in a lot of choirs and choruses until I got to a point where I was in my teens and shows like American Idol came out and Nashville Star, and I started auditioning for those shows, which evidently didn't lead to anything. So that's why I'm here doing my own thing as an independent artist. But I auditioned for, I think, American Idol 6 times. Nashville Star was just once because that show didn't take off. And then The Voice, I think I tried out 3 times for that. And then it got to a point where it's just like, maybe this isn't the road for me and I need to kind of figure out something else. And I've met many amazing musicians along the way of life through, different friends of mine, and met my first co-writer who I wrote my initial EP with that came out in 2018, which was self-titled. That's still out on Spotify and Apple Music and all the things if anybody
Dream
wants
now.
to check that out.
That's
Right?
right. We got to plug it. We'll put the links in the comments.
Yeah, and then from there, I just continued to meet people. I started going down to Nashville and meeting a lot of people, and then after the EP, I realized that really just putting out singles made more sense for me as an artist right now. I hope to eventually make an album at some point, but for right now, just doing singles and giving people something new every couple of months just to, keep at the forefront of people's brains. I know a lot of people kind of just listen to music and then they're on to the next thing. So having something to put out for people to hear, that's new, really to entice them to listen to the independent artists out there. The major label guys are doing albums and they can tour on those, and although with COVID they haven't been able to, now we're getting back to a place where that's going to happen again. And for me as an independent artist, singles seems where it's at. And from 2018 till now 2021, I've just been putting out singles and enhancing my craft as a musician. I taught myself guitar over the pandemic,
Yeah.
which is something that I hadn't known how to play prior to that. And I've got a long way to go, but, starting in that way, I actually bought this guitar in January 2020 before anything went crazy, because I was like, you know what, it's time. I really got to buckle down and learn guitar, because I've always wanted to, and I dabbled, and then it was too hard. And you play the back and forth game, and I'm sure anybody who's watching this who's played guitar knows how that feeling is. But I bought this and I was like, no, I'm gonna learn. And I played a couple of times, got frustrated, and then the pandemic hit where everybody was just doing virtual live streams. And at that moment I was like, if I don't learn how to play now, I'm gonna fall to the wayside. Nobody's gonna know who I am, because I can't be out there sharing my music and sharing what I love with people if I can't play it. So I just really deep dove into music and learning my songs and learning covers to play for people. And I created my own show at one point that was called Pajama Sessions. I did that for 4 months during the pandemic, and I always challenged myself to learn new songs every week so that I would just, learn songs for myself, but also be able to give the listeners something different to listen to instead of the same, couple songs.
Mhm.
Because I'm not radio. I don't play the same 15 songs over and over again. I try to switch it up for people to, want to hang out and listen to. So that's the brief version of
Oh, I
how
love all of that.
here today.
So many questions about it all.
Yeah, feel free to ask. And I'm so willing to elaborate, but trying to like keep it ishy, concise for
Beautiful.
everybody.
It's right on point. Right on point. So let's talk about auditioning for these reality TV shows and the process that it goes through emotionally, like the things that you go through, the nerves of even going to audition and then hearing the words no or next, and then recovering from that and doing it again. And that persistence that continuously showed up for you. How did
Mhm.
you find that whole entire process emotionally? And how did you dig deep to find the persistence to keep going even when you heard the word no?
I think what helped prepare me for the nose was my modeling career that I've had previous to becoming a musician. I mean, I've always been a musician at heart, but I started modeling actually to kind of get into music to try and meet more people and, figure out where that lane brought me. But when I first started with modeling, it's always a yes or no. You're one in a million people, just as you are in music. So I heard the word no a lot, and it was something I was kind of just used to. Of, well, you just didn't fit the slot, so on to the next one. And that's kind of how I approached those shows. Of, even though I would put my whole self into it, and as an artist and a musician, I'm super nervous going into stuff like that. It's just a thing in me that I've never been able to shake. When I get on stage, after the first song, like, I'm good. But for an audition, when you're really building up and you have all this, I wouldn't even call it anxiety. It's like excitement and anxiety, and you're scared. And like, there's just so many emotions in one that you're trying to overcome to do this 1 30-second performance that you get.
So
It's
much riding on that moment too,
There's
right?
so much writing on it, and it's just like two very different things. Like, when I head on stage as an artist and like I'm booked for something, or I'm just playing a set anywhere, even if I'm busking, it's just like you're out there and you're doing what you love and somebody's paying you to do it, and it's awesome. But when you're auditioning for something, whether it's, trying to get a modeling gig, or you're trying to get an acting gig, or performing for American Idol or The Voice or anything like that, you have so much riding on it because you're thinking this is your one shot. And back when I was 16 and auditioning for American Idol for the first time, yeah, you're like, this is it. This is my only chance.
Yeah.
And as you start to like grow and get smarter, and you just know kind of different avenues that you can follow, it makes it a little less scary for you. But the first couple of times, I definitely was extremely nervous. Um, Used to the no, in a sense of like kind of bummed out that I got the no, but not in a sense of, oh, I suck and I shouldn't do this with my life. It was always like, all right, well, I know what I did wrong, or I know what I could improve, and I'm gonna work on that for next year or the next thing that I have, because this is what I want in my life. Um, if you quit something that you love, you never know if you're gonna make it. If you don't quit and you continue to follow that dream, if one day comes and you decide, like, hey, I just spent the last 30 years trying to follow this dream and it didn't work out,
Yeah.
then sure, hang up your shoes and don't do it anymore. But for me, it's been, God, I was 16, and it's been almost, golly, I can't even do the math because
I understand.
it's not what I excelled in my life, but it's been a long time. And
Well, you look great.
thank you. I'm not at the point where I would want to quit that. I want to keep following my dream and doing what I'm doing. And No matter how many people tell me no, I'm going to continue to do what I love until I feel like it's not for me anymore. I'm not going to let somebody else dictate when I stop, if that makes any sense.
Totally makes sense. And I think that's a really important message and lesson to share with people at any age or stage of whatever passion project or dream that they're following. Too many people get shut down in the wrong way when they hear the word no. And it turns into that belief system, oh, I'm not good enough. So I'm just going to give up. And it's really the word no. I always talk about this, but it's like, that's not saying no, you're not good enough. It's just, that's no one no closer to a yes. And just remembering that, I think, is a really important lesson and message that we just can't talk about it enough, because it doesn't matter what stage, there's always going to be a no. And even if, we've been doing it for 20 years, it's still like, oh, I heard no. And it still kind of stings just a little bit, even though you're going to keep going and not quit. But I think that feeling kind of always stings a little bit, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think an inherent nature is that none of us want to be disliked or be told no, or have any of that negative
Yeah.
vibe towards us. But it's those who can push past that are going to really do something. And like, no matter how many times you're told no, you just keep going for it.
Totally. It's just like practice. All of this life is practice, right? And, think
Yeah.
about when you first started learning guitar. How was the first G chord you played? How did that feel?
Oh
Right?
my
Like,
God. It was awful. I mean,
right?
I know when I first started, the biggest hurdle I had to get over, and because I had dabbled in playing probably 3 years prior to actually getting to the point where I can play a little bit, and I would pick up the guitar, I'd play a couple of chords. I couldn't figure out how to strum, and like the shapes were very weird for my hands, and it was just a very frustrating experience. When it got to a point where I was like, no, I'm gonna take my money and I'm gonna spend money on a guitar and buy it for myself. So this means I have to play it no matter what.
Right.
And, ironically, the pandemic hit and there was no choice. It was like, you either learn guitar because you're not quarantined with somebody who's gonna play for you, or you're gonna not do this. Like, I didn't have the instrumentals for my music that I could just like play and sing, you know, during a live stream. And
Right.
I didn't want to do that. Like, I wanted to perform for people and give them a reason to watch. You can karaoke your way through anything, sure, but being able to play your own stuff, just for me, I mean, I don't discredit anybody who sings to
Oh,
tracks and does whatever they do. If that's what works for them, great. For me, it was I need to learn how to play these songs. And the ones that I have recorded in the past that I can't play, I just don't play because I haven't gotten to a point where I'm able to do that yet.
yeah.
And that's okay, because at
People
some
can only
point
go
I
so
will.
far. Yeah.
Exactly. And you learn how to play songs that are much simpler version that you're going to play for anybody, but if you can vocally carry it, nobody's really going to care as much about your guitar playing unless they're, some amazing guitarist, and I'd be like, well, God bless you, and if you want to come up and play for me, you are more than welcome.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
That's amazing. Yeah, exactly. But it's just the same kind of thing. It's persistence and patience and practice. And we make mistakes. We fall down. We play the wrong chord. We keep going, right?
Exactly. I mean, I've played so many wrong chords, and
Right?
that, I think the key thing is to remember to keep going. If you don't kind of call it out that you've done something wrong, most oftentimes people aren't going to notice that you did, especially if it's something that you've written, because they most likely haven't heard it.
Totally.
It's the first time, so it'll be, a little bit different for them, and they won't know the difference. You will. If you can play it off, you're good. And there's been times when I've played covers that people know well, like Wagon Wheel and Free Fallin' and a few
Yeah.
songs like that, and I play something wrong or I forget the lyrics, and I'll be, strumming along, and I'm like, sorry, I've forgot the lyric. I'm just gonna come in the next beat. Here we go, and you just keep on going. If you
That's
can
a
play it off, it means everything, because I don't think that any fan believes that the artist that they're watching knows every single word of every single song that they've ever done in their entire life. And there are often times that we, make the mistake of I've gotten into songs so much at points where I'm like, what's the next verse, because I'm just so invested in this one moment that I forgot. And it happens to the best of the best. Look at, Carrie Underwood, Keith Urban, any of those guys. There have been times where they forget, and it's okay. You just gotta kind of like brush it off, and if you brush it off, no one else will care.
I love it. This is such an inspiring conversation. Just a nice reminder. Keep going and be persistent no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're learning how to cook or riding a bike, playing guitar, or taking the stage, right? Just keep going. I love this. And speaking of inspiration, where do you gather your inspirations from for your songwriting?
I get it from a lot of different places. I get it from, myself, just growing up the way that I have and living my life in a certain way. I've experienced enough where it kind of dictates a few ideas for songs. I also take a lot of inspiration from stuff that's happening around me, whether it be in the news or the media, in my friends' lives, of something that they're going through that kind of just strikes a chord that'll make me want to write about something. I try to think about things holistically, in a sense of, there are things that have happened to me in my life, and things that have happened in friends' lives, and people who you don't know their lives, and you can really kind of bring it home to yourself and be like, all right, this is the type of feeling that I'm feeling in the moment, and what what does that feel like, and how do I want to say that? And with music, I feel like you can really share a broad view of things with how you structure a song, where it could be about heartbreak, like my previous song Broken Heart, and it could be heartbreak in so many ways, of somebody who has broken your heart as in left you, or somebody who has left you as in not being on this earth anymore, and for whatever reason that has broken your heart. I try to think about things in a very kind of broad way, where when I write, it can hit people in those different ways. It's specific but general, in a sense, if that makes any sense.
Totally makes sense. Global. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
There's so many different ways that you can say something, and you can get really specific with it, which is, I think, great. There's so many songs like that. But there's also a way that you can say the same thing in a little more of a broad reach. Um, like Nights Like These, that I put out last year, which was about my experience during the pandemic and missing the life I had before. But the way that I wrote it, it could really be used anytime, of just like missing your family, missing your friends, like wishing you had nights like these
Mm.
now because you had them then. You can kind of look back in time, and it's not just a pandemic song, it can be any time. And that's what I love about music. You can write broadly, or you can write really specific, and you can hit people on so many different levels.
Totally. Oh, I love that. No, great answer. And there's something I just love about sharing music and having everybody have a different perspective of what that song is about to them
Yeah,
and how it touches them in a different way. So I think that is something that's very special about music, just in general as a whole. It's
for
great.
sure. And I think there's a big difference between listening to the lyrics of a song and then hearing the music of it.
Yeah,
And if you pay attention to those specifically in a certain way of listening to the song, it can hit you in a different way. Like, there are so many beautifully written songs lyrically that I'm like, those lyrics really touch me. And other songs where the lyrics aren't as touching, but the music really
just takes.
I just feel it, and I think having, both of those things, whether it's one or the other, or you have them in one, I guess if you have them in one, you're like a unicorn and that's amazing. But it's nice to have, both sides of the equation where you can really feel something in a song, whether it's the lyrics or the music that goes along with it.
Oh, that's great. Well, on that note of songwriting, I'm so excited to hear your new song coming out this Friday. It's available for pre-save right now. So everybody after this, go pre-save her new song. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the song and then play it for us?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the song comes out this Friday. You guys can pre-save it on Apple Music and Spotify. It's called Gravel. I wrote it with my friends Davis Branch and Erica Rain. We did it via Zoom, which is like the COVID way of writing songs these days. And I've written a lot of songs in the past year and a half or so via Zoom because it's just an easier way to reach people. But this song is all about packing up and getting out of your town, whether you're in a small town or a big town. People assume that you're going to kind of end up there, and that's not where you want to be. You have, far reaching dreams and wanting to go different places. So that's like the gist of what Gravel is about. And I'm going to play it for you guys right now.
Awesome.
I hope you like it.
Sure.
Loaded up that Chevy truck with my guitar and about 50 bucks. I gotta get me out of here. People say I'm going nowhere fast, but I'm headed west on a tank of gas. That road's wide open from what I hear. Pedal down past the town where they all thought I'd end up. Everyone born here stays here. Same story year after year. Most people grow up, never leave. Got my bags packed, don't need a map. County lines can't hold me back. Gonna make my way down the road less traveled and kick up the gravel. This'll be my last time driving by the city limit signs. If I'm honest, I don't feel a thing. They all say I dream too big, but I'm not one for settling. My sights are set on something they can't see. Everyone born here stays here. Same story year after year. Most people grow up, never leave. Got my bags packed, don't need a map. County lines can't hold me back. Gonna make my way down the road less traveled, kick up the gravel. I know I've gotta take a chance if I'm gonna do what they say I can't. Everyone born here stays here. Same story year after year. Most people grow up, never leave. Got my bags packed, don't need a map. County lines can't hold me back. Gonna make my way down the road less traveled and kick up the gravel. Kick up the gravel.
Woo! I love that. Da, 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 da. I love that catchy hook in the chorus. It's really good. And we
Thank you so
been in
much.
my head all night. So good. Awesome song. And I just love hearing your voice. You've got such rich, beautiful tone, and it's so nice and enjoyable to listen to. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Oh,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Absolutely. No, it's so good. I love your music. I love your energy, your vibe, and your attitude towards just going after it and pushing through the fear that shows up for us all in life. So it's very inspiring and contagious. So thank you for sharing all of your stories and your songs with us today. I always like to finish with the question, if you had one message to share with the world, what would that be?
My message to everyone would be to follow your dreams no matter what they are. There are so many people that are going to tell you, no, don't do that. Don't listen to them. You need to do in your life what you want to do. It's short. Life is short. And if you're not living it the way that you want to, then why bother? You got to just go for what you want. And that's the best advice that I can give anyone. And if I could give my younger self advice, I would say, do what you want. Don't follow what everybody else wants you to do. Do what is inside you and what makes you happy.
I love that. Great advice. Great advice. Great new song. Everybody, make sure you pre-save the song and check it out on Friday. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining me on The Artist Behind the Music.
Thank you so much.